In the International Energy Agency's judgment, it is quite possible that global oil production will be inadequate to meet demand as soon as next year. Now, the Chinese government is now taking steps to reflate the Chinese economy, to increase economic growth. That is going to put upward pressure on oil prices. China is buying oil from Russia, and Xi Jinping is visiting Saudi Arabia, and there's going to be a deal between China and Saudi Arabia for more, which will undoubtedly include provision for the supply of more oil from Saudi Arabia to China. China can easily absorb all of Russia's oil exports and still need oil from the Saudis. So we're going to see more pressure from China, putting greater pressure on oil prices before very long. To continue, and this is again, I'm returning to Professor Thompson's article. For much of the 2010s, the world economy got by on the shale oil boom. Without US production more than doubling between 2010 and 2019, the world would have been trapped in a permanent oil crisis since 2005, when conventional crude oil production, oil drilled without hydraulic fracturing or from tar sands, stagnated. But American shale cannot expand at the same rate again. Although the largest US shale oil formation, the Permian Basin in western Texas and southeastern New Mexico, is projected to reach record output next month, overall US output is still more than 1 million barrels per day below what it was in 2019. Even in the Permian, daily production per well is declining. The shale oil boom in the United States, in other words, is in retreat. It's over. More offshore drilling of the kind opened up in the Gulf of Mexico and Alaska by the Inflation Reduction Act, a misnamed act if ever there was one, by the way, will require higher prices or investors willing to pour in capital regardless of the prospects for profit. The best geological prospects for a game changer akin to what happened in the 2010s lie with the huge Bazhenov shale oil formation in Siberia. But Western sanctions mean that the prospect of Western oil majors helping Russia technologically is a geopolitical dead end. Now, what Professor Thompson is saying here, by the way, is not that the Bazhenov field won't be developed, but it won't be developed with the participation of the Western oil majors, because they're prevented from doing so by sanctions and geopolitical politics. The Russians, by the way, are familiar with shale oil technology. I mean, they haven't the experience that the US does, but they do know how it works. I know that, by the way, because I happen to know one of the engineers I do happen to know is a Russian engineer who is very familiar with the technology. In fact, he's discussed it and explained it all to me, and he's explained to me how it would work, and I know this person, and I know this background, and I know that he is a serious person. Of course, China also has been experimenting with shale. And if Bazhenov is indeed going to be developed, I predict it will be to China's and possibly India's benefit, not for the West. And as we see, Chinese demand for oil at the moment is voracious, And if Chinese economy starts to pick up speed again, and India's does also, then it will only grow. Anyway, to continue with Professor Thompson's article. Second, little can be done that would immediately accelerate the transition from fossil fuels. Britain's planned micro-nuclear reactors will not be completed until the 2030s. Again, a technology, by the way, that looks promising but is yet untested. Running electricity grids on solar and wind-based loads will require technological breakthroughs in storage. It is impossible to plan with any confidence what progress will have materialized in 10 years, let alone next year. But precisely because an energy transition is essential to reduce fossil fuel consumption, that's the mantra now, large-scale blue-sky investment is imperative. The only way forward is realism for the short term, recognizing that there is no way back to cheap energy, allied to radical long-term ambition. And now we come to the interesting point. A grasp of geopolitical realities is also essential. The US remains by some distance the world's dominant power. Its naval power guarantees open waters for international trade. World credit markets depend on dollars. But, here's the key, Washington does not have the power to direct China's and India's energy relations with Russia. The coming midwinter will bring a reckoning. Western governments must either invite economic misery on a scale that would test the fabric of democratic politics in any country, or face the fact that energy supply constrains the means by which Ukraine can be defended. Well, there it is. What this article is hinting at, it's very explicit, it's very measured, it's very analytical. What this article is saying, you have to do a deal with Russia. You have to accept the fact you can't dictate energy flows, you can't force India and China to agree to oil price caps or those kind of things. You can't impose your will on the Russians. And you need Russian gas and you need Russian oil for the short term. In the long term, you can work hard to develop your alternative energies. You can build your micro reactors, as the British are talking about. You can work hard on sorting out the energy storage problems with wind and solar power. And of course, this person doesn't talk about hydrogen, but no doubt you can look at that too. In the short term, unless you are going to expose your societies in the West to unbearable pressure, and that doesn't even start with the problems you're going to be creating in the global South. If you are going to try and resolve these problems, you've got to find some way of talking to the Russians, and that means an off-ramp on Ukraine. You've got to accept that you've got to deal with the Russians, address Russian concerns over Ukraine. In other words, Professor Thompson is saying that you've got to talk peace.